Altamira is a city in the state of Para, Brazil. It's located in northern Brazil, just southwest of the mouth of the Amazon River. Despite being a populated city, it's still surrounded by the Amazon rainforest, which is filled with dangers. Snakes, large jungle cats, poisonous dart frogs, and black caiman are just a few of the animals that can easily injure or even kill you if you find yourself out in the rainforest. On top of that, you could just get lost and die of exposure. After all, the Amazon is the largest jungle in the world, covering 5.5 million square kilometers. There's also the potential for infected bug bites or contracting a deadly disease like malaria. There are no shortage of dangers in and around the Amazon rainforest, but this story focuses on one in particular: humans. In this story, the monster is not an anaconda or a jaguar, it's a human being just like you and me. This is Monsters. On August 2, 1989, an 8-year-old boy named Joseph was last seen walking with an unidentified man. He was found 2 hours later having been emasculated and sexually assaulted. On November 16th, a 10-year-old boy named Antonio was lured away by a man offering him mangoes. After walking quite a ways, the man put a cloth over the boy's face and he passed out. He woke up to find himself bleeding between his legs. He too had been emasculated and sexually assaulted. On July 23, 1990, 9-year-old Waldesley was approached by a man who asked him for help getting a kite out of a tree. Once they were in the woods, the man put a cloth over his face, and when he awoke, he had also been emasculated and sexually assaulted. Those were the 3 boys known to have survived what would become known as the Altamira Child Emasculations. Different publications have printed different numbers, but it's believed that there would end up being at least 19 victims, all between the ages of 8 and 14. A few would survive and 6 would be found dead. An unknown number would remain missing. Emasculation is the removal of the penis and testicles. It differs from castration, as that is only the removal of the testicles. There are a number of reasons why an emasculation is performed, including religious and cultural reasons. Many of those reasons have the male in question willingly get emasculated. In this story, none of the emasculations performed were consensual, so even the victims who survived had to live their lives with the effects of the procedure being done against their will. Of the 3 boys who had survived their attacks, 2 would undergo extensive surgery to repair the damage that had been done, and they all needed psychological treatment. There were no clues as to who attacked the 3 boys. Authorities believed that at least one doctor was involved because the removal of the boys' organs had been performed with medical expertise. Valentina de Andrade was the leader of the Superior Universal Alignment cult, and she believed the world was coming to an end. Don't they all? She founded the group in 1981 and claimed to have received divine messages from extraterrestrials. They warned her that the apocalypse was coming, and if she spread their message, they would send a ship to save them before the world ended. What was their message? Well, the aliens told her that any males born after 1981 were the incarnations of evil. Obviously, to appease these alien overlords, black magic rituals would have to be performed on those males. Several prominent community members would end up joining the cult. There were multiple doctors, a businessman, and 2 ex-military police officers. They believed the story that Valentina was telling them, and by 1989, they had started their campaign of emasculation, torture, and sexual abuse of young boys. On January 20th, 1991, 13-year-old Tito Mendez was swimming in a local stream. He was last seen walking with an unidentified man. He was never seen again. On May 5th, 1991, 10-year-old Ailton Fonseca was reported missing and there was no trace of him for over a month. His body was found 46 days later, and after being transported to the morgue, it mysteriously disappeared. His body has never been seen since, and nobody has a clue what happened to it. It's possible that one of the cult members was able to sneak into the morgue and steal the body, but that's just speculation. Early in the investigation, the bodies that were found weren't linked together, and those investigations went cold due to lack of evidence. In 1990, police arrested a drifter named Rotilio de Souza. He died in prison a few months later under suspicious circumstances, but the murders and disappearances didn't stop, so he was likely not involved. After the cases were linked, organ trafficking became the next theory as to why the boys were being kidnapped and mutilated. Emasculations were not the only heinous acts being performed on the boys. Some had other organs removed, but on top of that, many had burns on their bodies, their eyes gouged out, and one even had his hands removed. That was more a sign of torture than of organ harvesting. 2 doctors who had recently moved to the area were questioned in relation to organ trafficking. Drs. Anicio Ferreira de Souza and Cicio Bandeo, but it was eventually uncovered that the organs were removed in a way that wouldn't make them suitable for transplant, and the doctors were released. No evidence of organ trafficking has ever been found in relation to the case. The case was cold for a few years, but when investigators reopened it in 1993, authorities believed that a cult was involved in ritual sacrifice and black magic in the name of Satan. The superior universal alignment became the main focus of the investigation, and when the same 2 doctors who had been questioned previously were discovered to be part of the cult, they were rearrested. The investigation also uncovered a book about black magic written by Valentina, as well as videotapes of her demonstrating her black magic rituals surrounded by hooded individuals. The book contained spells that were to be performed using children's genitals. 5 members of the cult would be arrested and tried for the murders and mutilations. The 2 doctors, Anicio Ferreira de Souza and Cicio Bandeo, plus Amelton Madeira Gomez, a business owner who was said to be the one who lured the boys away and sexually assaulted them, and Carlos Alberto Santos Lima, an ex-military police officer who worked as a security guard for Amelton's business. Investigators say that Carlos eventually confessed to being involved in the cult. The last person arrested and tried for the ritual killings was Valentina de Andrade, the founder and leader of the cult. Some of the boys that survived testified at the trials, identifying their attackers and describing what they remembered from the events. In August of 2003, Carlos Alberto Santos Lima was sentenced to 35 years in prison, and Amelton Madeira Gomez was sentenced to 57 years in prison. In September of the same year, Anicio Ferreira de Souza was sentenced to 77 years in prison, and Cicio Bandeo was sentenced to 56 years in prison. In 2003, Valentina de Andrade was 75 years old, and she adamantly denied being involved in any killings, saying, quote, "I haven't the courage to kill a chicken." After she presented a solid alibi, having been out of town during the murders, and with a lack of evidence, Valentina was acquitted of the charges. Valentina fainted when she heard the decision and received medical treatment. The family members of the victims protested the decision, but it did no good. Valentina had escaped justice. Valentina continued to preach her so-called knowledge of the upcoming apocalypse, something that never seems to happen despite so many people claiming it's imminent. She gathered more followers but stayed relatively quiet for the rest of her life. She died on March 31st, 2023 of unknown causes. She was 91 years old. Despite there not being any evidence that Valentina de Andrade was involved directly in the murders, a cult member who encourages others to kill is just as guilty. We've seen it with Charles Manson and Jim Jones. Cult leaders gain an enormous amount of influence over their followers, and convincing them to kill anyone, including themselves, makes them equally liable of murder. No matter what you believe, murdering and mutilating children will never make you a savior. It will only ever make you a monster. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave us a comment. You can check out our other show, Somewhere Sinister, on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.